So if the playoffs started today, here is how the NBA playoffs would look. Number one in the Eastern Conference, the number one seed would be the Milwaukee Bucks. They are 39-6. The Miami Heat would be the number 2 seed, 31-13. The Toronto Raptors are 30-14. They'd be the number 3 seed. The Boston Celtics would be the 4th seed. They're 29-14. The Pacers are 29-16. They'd be the 5th seed. The Philadelphia 76ers, remember this team that's got incredible talent and great players all over the place? They're actually the 6th seed right now. They're 29-17. It's all a really tight race, though, between those first six teams. Other than the Bucks are just in a league of their own. They're even better than the Lakers. The Orlando Magic are 21-24. They're below 500, but they are actually the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs. And the Brooklyn Nets are the 8th seed at 18-24. Now, the Western Conference is way more competitive, a lot more really active teams that are quite good. The LA Lakers are 35-9. They are the number 1 seed right now in the Western Conference. They are followed by the Utah Jazz, which are 31. They're 31-13, the Utah Jazz. The LA Clippers are the 3rd seed at 31-14. The Denver Nuggets are the 4th seed at 30-14. The Dallas Mavericks are 27-16. They have Luka Doncic. I love him, man. It's so much fun. They're 27-16. The Houston Rockets are also 27-16. They're the 6th seed. The Oklahoma City Thunder, man, we're going to talk about this story down the road. They're a team that's fun to watch. They are 26-19. The San Antonio Spurs are the 8th seed right now. If the playoffs started today, they are 20-23. Now, in the hunt, here's what's cool. Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies are 20-24. I would absolutely love to see Ja Morant, the rookie, the number 2 overall pick. He's a point guard. If he could take his team to the playoffs, the Memphis Grizzlies, they're a game out. Man, if they could make that happen, that would be so awesome. And another team in the hunt, the Blazers, and Carmelo Anthony making kind of a resurgence in his career, proving that he, in fact, I made a video a couple years ago saying Carmelo Anthony was cancer. Wrong. I mean, he's really fitting in with the Blazers. They're 19-26. They're not like a great team. They're well below 500, but they are actually, they're technically the 10th team right now in the Western Conference. They're in the hunt. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I really would love to see the Grizzlies make it. I'm from Portland, but I'm not a Blazers fan. I'd love to see Ja Morant because that's a better story to me. To see Ja Morant, a rookie point guard, get his team into the playoffs would be really cool. But the Blazers and the Grizzlies are 2 teams that are in the hunt right now in the NBA playoffs. Here are some of the storylines in the NBA that fire me up and make me really excited. I want to start with, we'll just talk about Ja Morant. If you don't know who he is, he's the number 2 overall pick in this year's most recent NBA draft. He's a rookie for the Memphis Grizzlies. He's playing fantastic. I mean, in my opinion, Ja Morant is, and I don't think anybody can beat him. Like, people are, there's a narrative today, like, maybe Zion can come in and steal Rookie of the Year from Ja Morant. Stop it. He's going to play like, it's January and Zion just played his first game of the year. How are you going to discredit the entire first half of the season for Ja Morant? Unless Ja Morant gets hurt or just massively drops off, Ja Morant is easily, and by a landslide, the Rookie of the Year in the NBA this year. He's got, here's a crazy number I really love. The Grizzlies have played without Ja Morant 6 times this year. They're 1-5 without him, and they average losing by 12 points when he doesn't play. I mean, he is a gigantic difference maker, he changes the game when he plays. He's a point guard, he's great. He's averaging 17.5 points per game. His field goal percentage is 48.7. He's a great athlete. He's got a great basketball IQ. And again, I hate the way people compare Zion to Ja Morant. They're completely different athletes. Zion is this massive athlete. Ja Morant's a little bit smaller, a lot quicker. I love the guy. I'm so happy for Memphis. I don't think we need to compare Zion and Ja. People will forever. But I love watching him. He's a cool story. I didn't expect him to be this good this early. And I just am so excited to watch him. Some people are even saying they'd rather have him than Zion. I don't know. I think Zion's more popular. Probably, I think social media popularity does matter. He puts butts in the seats. What drew me more to to watch a basketball game, was it Zion or Ja Morant? Zion pulls me to a TV screen more. I think I'd rather have Zion, honestly, just for that factor alone, if they're even comparable players. But I think Ja Morant's a great story that deserves a lot of respect and recognition this year throughout the NBA. And he's very clearly, to me, the Rookie of the Year. And it's going to be almost impossible to change my opinion on that. Ja Morant's phenomenal. Another crazy story to me is the Oklahoma City Thunder. I want to remind you guys of something that, do you guys remember when the Thunder traded away Russell Westbrook? Everybody believed they were tanking. Well, currently, because I really thought, I was like, man, they traded away Russell Westbrook. They got a bunch of draft picks. The Thunder have given up. They're trying to rebuild, and they're going to tank this year and get better draft picks. Well, currently, The Thunder are the 7th seed in the Western Conference, not the Eastern Conference. That's far less difficult. No, the Western Conference, where it's really competitive. They're the 7th seed. They would make the playoffs if the playoffs started today. And it's funny, they're right behind the Houston Rockets, where they traded Russell Westbrook. You know, the the Rockets are the 6th seed, and the Thunder right behind them are the 7th seed currently in the NBA playoffs. The leading scorer of the Oklahoma City Thunder is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's awesome. I love him. He's a second-year player. He's 21 years old. He was the 11th overall pick 2 years ago in the NBA draft. It's cool how he's emerged as a really good player. And if you remember, Oklahoma City got him from the Clippers when they traded Paul George to the Clippers to LA. I knew that Shai had a solid future. I had no idea he'd be this good and have this much of an impact this quickly in the season and this quickly into his career. But the coolest part to me is not Shai. It's actually that the Thunder are led by Chris Paul. You know, when Chris Paul came to the Thunder when Russell Westbrook was traded to the Rockets. Here's how the trade was sold to me and how I even talked about the trade on the show. I said that Russell Westbrook has been traded to the Rockets, and what the Rockets gave up was a bunch of draft picks. Oh, and by the way, they also included Chris Paul. Like, Chris Paul felt like an afterthought, kind of like he was the change in the bottom of the cat. You just, you can have this too, why not? Well, Chris Paul has had a huge impact. And really, here's the other thing. It felt like, to me, the reason why the Rockets were getting rid of Chris Paul, and I think this is still true to this day, they wanted to get rid of his salary, and the Thunder were like, well, we'll take his salary. We can afford it, and we need the draft picks. I mean, I really don't know that. I mean, leave it to Sam Presti. Sam Presti maybe really wanted Chris Paul. Maybe he had the foresight. I'm definitely not the basketball analyst that I am. I'm not as good an analyst of basketball as I am in football, but I'm telling you, Chris Paul, I didn't expect to make this huge of an impact. He's 34 years old, and it seemed like when he played for the Rockets last year, he was slowing down at the end of the year. But I'm telling you, Chris Paul's leadership paired with his basketball IQ and his playing style is really, he's like the glue that keeps this Thunder team together. This is why they're winning. I don't know, man. Chris Paul, he makes it work. It's so cool. I'm happy for him. And a lot of people don't like him, which I think it's because of his mouth. Maybe it's his persona. I don't know. I really like Chris Paul. I like his leadership style. He's very direct. He's not afraid to get in your face. I think he's the kind of guy that you wouldn't want to play against because he'll yell at you and he'll be mean to you if you play against him. But he's the kind of guy you want on your team because he's a scrappy, hard-nosed player. And he makes it happen, man. Chris Paul is the glue to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and he's not going to be in the MVP conversation. It's just like, it's kind of ridiculous. But if there was a most, valuable, Chris Paul is pretty valuable. I don't know where the Thunder would be without Chris Paul. He's not going to win MVP. He won't even be in the conversation. His story isn't good enough. His stats aren't good enough. But man, I'm telling you, he has had a massive impact on the Oklahoma City Thunder, more than people are giving him credit for. Now, another insane thing this season to me is Yanis. Yanis, the Greek freak out of Milwaukee. You know, he won the NBA MVP last year. And I'm pretty sure this year he's even better than he was last year, which is unbelievable to me. You know, his team, the Milwaukee Bucks right now, they're dominating the NBA. They have a 39-6 record. They're easily the best team in the East. I think they're going to make it to the, one of the things I said in my preseason preview was, I guess it's a preseason preview, it's just my season preview. I was so excited to see the Milwaukee Bucks because I knew they'd be good this year. But my question was, can they finish their run? You know, they lose in the playoffs, it feels like every year. Even though they have this great player, Yanis, can they finish the run and get to the actual NBA Finals? This feels like their year. This feels like the year that we get to see Yanis take his team, the Milwaukee Bucks, to the Finals and maybe, just maybe, even win. But I want to go back to when Yanis won the NBA MVP. He was out of the playoffs at the time. You know, he got knocked out. He wasn't in the finals. And Yanis said he wanted to get even better as a basketball player. And, what's crazy is that he did. It's a testament to his work ethic. He's a better player. He's scoring. His shooting is even better. He's getting more assists. He's getting more rebounds. He's turning the ball over less. I mean, I'm telling you, Yanis became an even better all-around basketball player, and he won the NBA's Most Valuable Player award last year. It's just crazy to me. And here's what's really cool. This guy was the 15th overall pick, which is not bad. He was a first-round pick in the NBA for sure. But Yanis was, look at pictures of Yanis coming into the league, and then look at him now. He's buff. I mean, his muscle mass has dramatically increased. He's clearly done the work in the weight room. He's a better player all around. The work ethic Yanis has put in, not just in the weight room, but working on his skills as a basketball player since he entered the league, to me, is so inspiring. I don't know how you look at Yanis and don't go, that dude's work ethic is obvious, it's clear, and the progression he's made as a player is like just wow. I mean, if you value self-improvement at all, or self-awareness, or if you're a person who works in your field and you want to get better, like when I make the podcast, I want to get better every time I make an episode. I look at Yanis and the way he carries himself and the way he's improved throughout the course of his career, and I go, I just am so inspired by that, and I want to be like Yanis. I hope you do too. I mean, I encourage everybody, be like Yanis. If you can reach the pinnacle of your career and then still find a way to keep getting better, to me, that's just the best you can have. And I love watching Yanis. I love his progression, and it's so cool to me. Okay, let's talk about Markelle Fultz. In 2017, Markelle Fultz was the number 1 overall pick. And, he struggled really early. He had some injuries. He couldn't shoot. He had a lot of problems. Some people said it was psychological. Maybe he had the yips a little bit where he was just nervous about shooting. And the team that picked him, the Philadelphia 76ers, actually ended up giving up on Markelle Fultz. They traded him away. 2 years after picking him number 1 overall, they said, February, they drafted him, waited a year, then that next February, they said, hey, we're done. We're going to move on from you. And he's had a cool redemption arc. Look, it's not all the way finished. I think the way I would put this is it reminds me a lot of Ryan Tannehill as a quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. His former team, the Miami Dolphins, said, we're moving on. You were our franchise quarterback. We don't believe in you. We're going to trade you away to the Tennessee Titans. And he took his team all the way to the AFC Championship game. He had a better year, and he proved he could play. And I think we're at the beginning of an arc kind of like that, a story kind of like that for Markelle Fultz, where, he's had a couple nights recently where he scored over 20 points. He had a triple-double at one point against the Lakers. And currently, Markelle Fultz's team is in the playoffs right behind his former team, the Philadelphia 76ers, which is kind of ironic and pretty cool. The story here to me, though, is that Markelle Fultz is only 21 years old. He was what you call a one and done, which means he stayed in college for 1 year, then he immediately entered the NBA draft. And Markelle Fultz was just not ready, in my opinion, for the NBA. I watched him at Washington. I'm from the state of Washington. He was a good player. He had some good skills, but he was a baby. I mean, he was just a young guy. And so he went through a lot of struggles. He was just a kid early on in the year in his career. And he's had a couple career nights for him. And I think there's still hope for Markelle Fultz. He's at the beginning of his redemption story, but he's definitely playing a lot better than he was in Philadelphia. And he still might live up to that number 1 overall pick status he got a while back. I don't know. I just wouldn't give up hope on Markelle Fultz. He's only 21 years old. And we bail so quickly on players. We lack patience so much. But we forget that a guy entering the NBA at 18 years old or 19 years old after 1 year in college, for the most part, isn't ready. It's going to take a while for them to develop. But Markelle Fultz is 21 years old. I mean, the guy has such a long amount of time in the NBA ahead of him. I think there's still plenty of time for Markelle Fultz to develop. I would give him patience. I think it's really huge. And I'm really curious and excited to keep watching Markelle Fultz develop as an NBA player. Okay. I want to remind you guys of a funky night in the NBA. It was in the 2018 NBA draft. Think about this. The Atlanta Hawks drafted Luka Doncic, number 3 overall. This is what I just will never be able to forget this. They drafted Luka. Then they traded him to the Dallas Mavericks for their number 5 overall pick, for the Mavericks' number 5 overall pick, Trae Young, and a 2019 first-round pick. So the Hawks had Luka Doncic on their team, and they traded him away. Right now, Luka's averaging 29 points per game, 9 rebounds, 9 assists. He's 20 years old, 20, 2 years younger than me. And he's a generational talent in the NBA. He's a multimillionaire. He's killing it. He's so clearly the future of the NBA, one of the brightest stars, the brightest young star. I think Yanis is there, but Yanis is a little bit older. I mean, of like the first year or second year players, Luka is the guy. He's the best young player in the NBA. And, and by the way, currently his team is the 5th seed in the NBA's Western Conference. He's in the playoffs if they started today. Now, that's not entirely him. He's got good teammates helping him out. But, man, the contrast between Luka Doncic and Trae Young is just, it's loud. It's obvious. It kind of punches you in the face. It's like, man, I feel almost bad for Trae Young because Trae Young is a good basketball player. Trae Young is not bad. He's also averaging, by the way, 29 points per game, which is what Luka's averaging. Plus 4 rebounds a game, 8 assists. But Trae Young is just clearly not the same. I mean, Luka's a generational talent. You can have good numbers. Trae Young does have good numbers, but he's always going to be overshadowed by Luka Doncic. And I'll never be able to forget the time that the Atlanta Hawks briefly had Luka Doncic, and they let him go. They traded him away. What the heck? It's so interesting, man. And by the way, the Atlanta Hawks have an awful record. They have Trae Young. They had Luka. They don't have him anymore. And the Atlanta Hawks are 11-34. They are dead last in the NBA's Eastern Conference, the worst of the 2 conferences in the NBA. It's just crazy to think to me that the Hawks briefly had Luka Doncic, and they traded him away to the Dallas Mavericks. I'll never be able to forget that. Okay, it's so cool. I wish more guys were like Jimmy Butler. I want to talk about Jimmy Butler because a while back, the Miami Heat head coach Eric Spoelstra was talking about Jimmy Butler. And he said that stats are not the only reason why Jimmy Butler is a max contract player. He talked about how Jimmy Butler's leadership and work ethic really stand out and really make the Miami Heat better. And I just want to say, again, I wish more people were like Jimmy Butler as a franchise player. A lot of guys just score points and they cash in checks and they're happy with that. Jimmy Butler goes above and beyond. He's a leader. He's the heart and soul of his team. And if I was an NBA general manager or an NBA owner, I would feel so good about giving a max contract to a guy like Jimmy Butler. That's the kind of guy who deserves it, who earns it, who gives everything he has, his heart and soul, to win basketball games. He's not just a guy who cares about making money and scoring points. He wants to win. He's hungry. And he pushes the guys around him to be better. And some guys, lazy people, don't want to work with Jimmy Butler. People who are lazy don't like playing with Jimmy Butler. He had problems in Chicago. He had problems at his last stop in Philadelphia. He rubbed people the wrong way. But I'm telling you, if you put Jimmy Butler with a group of guys who want to win, who work hard, want to put their heads down and win games, if they're hungry, he's perfect. If you put Jimmy Butler with a group of guys that want to win, oh my goodness. That's exactly what's happening. That's what's happening with the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat right now are the number 2 overall seed in the Eastern Conference because Jimmy Butler is just pushing them, and they're responding. He's one of my favorite NBA players. I love Jimmy Butler, the passion, the work ethic he has, but the passion he plays with and the way he just goes after it. And he cares. He wants to win. There are a lot of players in the NBA who don't care about winning. They're happy to I've said this before on this topic, I'll say it again. They have no problem making a ton of money, scoring enough points to keep their reputation high. They don't need to win. Jimmy Butler's not one of those guys. And to me, I'm grateful for that. I appreciate that. I wish more people in the NBA were like Jimmy Butler. Here's another fun storyline. I don't have a lot about it. But currently the Indiana Pacers are 29-16. They're 5th in the Eastern Conference, The Pacers are 5th in the Eastern Conference playoff standings. And what's crazy is they don't even have their star player, Victor Oladipo, right now. He hasn't played all year. He's recovering from a knee injury last year. And he'll come back into the lineup on January 29th. That's going to be a day. I'm going to watch that game, January 29th. It's the Pacers against the Chicago Bulls. And, it's going to be an adjustment because the Pacers have found a way to win games without Victor Oladipo. So they're going to have to find a way to work him back into the lineup and have, they're probably going to have some chemistry issues at first because that's what happens in basketball. But you would think on paper, man, you introduce Victor Oladipo back into your roster, back into your lineup, your best player on your team. You would think the Pacers are going to get even better. That's what I want to follow and see. Do they in fact get better? And if they do get better, how much better do they get? Because they're 5th in the East right now. Could adding Victor Oladipo make them 3rd, 2nd, 4th? I have no idea. Does it even help? Do they have so many problems it takes a while for them to recalibrate with their roster, with their lineup? I don't know. But that's a storyline I can't wait to watch and follow. It's on the 29th of January. Victor Oladipo will make his return to the Indiana Pacers. All right, this is how I want to end this topic. This is my check-in with the NBA. We talked about the standings. We've kind of bounced around the league for a couple things. I want to end with this really cool story. I'm going to make an analogy actually first. Is it Shia LaBeouf or LaBeouf? The kid from Holes. He was in Even Stevens. He's been in Transformers. Shia LaBeouf or LaBeouf or LaBeouf, however the heck you say his name. I don't know how you say it. But Shia. Or even another one is, what's the kid from Harry Potter? Doesn't matter. Shia LaBeouf. We'll go with this one. Shia LaBeouf is, and it does actually matter because Shia LaBeouf is a far more interesting actor than the guy from Harry Potter. I love Shia LaBeouf. I watched a movie called The Peanut Butter Falcon the other day, and you got to understand, Shia is a multi-millionaire. He was in Transformers. He was in Even Stevens making TV as a kid. He made Holes. He's got millions and millions of dollars. He doesn't ever need to work again. I mean, to me, that's interesting. But Shia LaBeouf is still acting in movies. He was in a movie, again, I saw recently called The Peanut Butter Falcon. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Why does he make that movie? Why does Shia LaBeouf keep acting in movies if he doesn't need to? Because he loves it. He loves the process of making movies. Daniel Radcliffe is the guy from Harry Potter. Daniel Radcliffe is set for life. Daniel Radcliffe was in the Harry Potter movies from the time he was like 12 till, for years. The guy made millions and millions and millions of dollars. Daniel Radcliffe never needs to work again. Why does he keep working? Because he loves making movies. And every once in a while, very rarely, because Daniel Radcliffe's movies are way weirder and harder to watch for me than Shia LaBeouf's. But whatever. The point is this. They do it out of love. There's something similar happening in the NBA. For that long, drawn-out story that I hope made sense to you, the point is that Tim Duncan right now is working for the San Antonio Spurs as an assistant coach. Tim Duncan is an NBA Hall of Famer. He played 19 years in the NBA. He made an estimated $240 million during his time playing in the NBA. Tim Duncan's set for life. He's set for life. He's got a gigantic reputation. He's an NBA Hall of Famer. He never needs to do anything again. And I think this is why it's cool to me. The fact that he doesn't need to do it, but he still does is cool because it clearly tells me Tim Duncan loves the San Antonio Spurs. He loves Greg Popovich. And he loves basketball. He wants to be around and be involved with basketball. I love and respect that. I was talking with my dad the other day. It's like, why? Jason Garrett was the backup quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. And Jason Garrett became a coach. And I was like, okay, how come you never see Hall of Fame quarterbacks like Troy Aikman was once also a Dallas Cowboys quarterback with Jason Garrett? Why did Troy Aikman not become a coach? I don't think Tom Brady's going to become a football coach when he's all said and done. I don't think Peyton Manning's going to become a football coach when he's done playing. Why do former amazing players become analysts and not coaches? Here's why, in my opinion. When you go from playing basketball or playing football or playing a sport and you're the best at what you do, you've climbed the mountain. Every single day has been a battle. You're working constantly to try to get better. The minute you retire, it's like, oh, I'm done. I can have a break. I can step back from the thing that has been a grind my whole life. I can take a break. I'm done. And when you do that, you let your foot off the gas. It's a huge relief. But then the thought of going back into grind mode ever again is nearly impossible. That's why Magic Johnson, I think, really struggled when he was the team president of the LA Lakers because he could never, I don't think he wants to do the work and the grinding of being an NBA general manager, of being an NBA president, a team president, doing the things he needed to do. So here's my point. I want to really appreciate and respect what Tim Duncan is doing because he went back to coaching. He could have done a lot of stuff. He could have never worked again. He could be on a beach in Fiji. Tim Duncan doesn't need to coach. And he's doing it because he loves it and he wants to grind. He wants to do the work. I mean, man, that to me, is there a more inspiring or cool reason to do something than because you love it? That's why Tim Duncan coaches, because he loves coaching and he loves the game of basketball. I just want to give that a round of applause. Great job, Tim Duncan. To me, that's really cool. And I thought that was worthy of being appreciated